So at this time, I'm going to open the floor for our second comment section. Before, same rules apply to the first, other than this is not time that I will ask that people please consider the fact that it is getting late. And if you have nothing new to bring up, then please, consider that as well. In this session, it's unlimited. Again, we still can't talk about students or our staff members, and that's pretty much all I have for you. So, check my box, ready? So, hold on, let me see.
Good afternoon, Lawrence and Palmer, 145 Delaware Avenue. The first thing is that if the new website is an indication of things to come, I think we have great things coming up ahead. It looks pretty good. The second thing is the email that went out today about changing the middle school bus schedule. Is that just because of potential strike, or is that just a change to correct something?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the strike. What we're trying to do is move the schedule back a little bit. We made some changes so some of the runs are shorter, and we're trying to get people to the school quicker. So we're trying to get people out there earlier to pick up their bus so we can get the students to the school more quickly. So it has nothing to do with these potential strikes.
That's a permanent change.
Yes. Well, actually, in the morning we'll see where it is. You know how it is. We'll see. Maybe it's only 5 minutes. It'll depend on how the runs work their way out. Yeah. We just didn't want anyone to miss their bus to pick up their little.
Can I just follow up on that? I'm sorry. I mean, I've been hearing a lot about the busing, and I'm just wondering why there's so much difficulty with the bus schedule. And it seems more this year, and it's lasted more days than in the past. Some of the schedules can be shifted, and kids getting picked up like really late. And that's their schedule time is really late. So I'm just curious what the issue is there.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with that it's a new schedule, so things that don't work in reality. I mean, even the dry run, you're just kind of going, you're not getting students. So we're trying to tweak it as we go along. And some of the things we changed, they're required to make the change within 3 days, but we try to get it to be done as soon as possible. So sometimes a change, we're still waiting on a change that we wanted to have done today is not done today because we requested yesterday. And so we're trying to get the pieces to work. So it is a different schedule than it was last year. And I think what will happen is if we don't make any major changes to the schedule, next year will be a lot easier because everyone is used to this. We won't have to do things like say, all right, we made some changes, we're trying to pull it back. It is a new schedule. And that always has some treatment to do with it.
Sharon Phillips, the North Circle report. So to piggyback on the busing schedule, my son did miss the bus today. He was out 5 minutes early from his regular schedule, but then the bus came 10 minutes early. So we did get the update and had to go chase the bus. But what would be helpful is to have a formal letter with like the locations and the new times, so this is permanent. That would just help, as well as I have parents text me today, and I'm sitting here, like, is there an early bus now? And if there's no more early buses at all, then I think that got lost in the communication because these are 7th grade parents asking about where's the early bus. So I think overall communication about the new schedule and there's no early bus, I think that was the question there, and what to do to get your child if there's an early resource needed. It sounds like we have to do that independently, but just reinforcing that process would be very helpful.
Anybody else new to have spoken about this?
So this issue, transportation issue is only at the middle school primarily, not the high school.
It's a big one.
The middle school is where
The middle school is our biggest We have some special ed runs that have some issues too, but we made the adjustment in the schedule, we just haven't been able to implement it yet, so I think we have that under control. That's why we're pulling back the morning piece of middle schools, is to try to get everyone on time. We started to get better, we got better and better, but it wasn't getting good enough. So it stabilized a little too, like we need like 5 more minutes we've got over half are before 8, with fewer still after, so we need like at least 5 more minutes, and that's why we're saying 15, because we're not really sure if this works really efficiently. We don't want people's bus to pass them 5 minutes early, so that's why we're trying this.
How long do you think it will take until this, close to the schedule, the schedule?
It's been by days. We fix each piece. It doesn't can make other problems worse.
Right.
But, we really, we had a huge drop in the amount of calls today overall. It was really amazing. And I think it's a lot because we're trying, people know what we're trying to get done. And we'll keep after it till it works. I will involve tweaking it, and if something comes up real later, we will keep fixing it. And we'll get better and better at this particular. I know there's a computer program that's supposed to be like right on the money, but it's not. The reality of the situation is very, very different. And that's why we have to be out a little early these times. Those are very much the result of a very well-wishing scheduling program that doesn't reflect reality. So we're now at the point where we're taking reality much more into account and moving things forward. But we do spend a lot of time each day on this. We do review at the end of the day what happened in the morning and anything that comes in that afternoon we review. And then first thing in the morning, if it was Sunday or later in the previous day, we review that. So we are like going through all the pieces. Each of the schools sends us arrival times every morning to review those. So that's why I know which ones, and they do that for us. If there's something in particular, the bus with a particular problem, we know that they'll call the company and try to get that straightened out right away too. So we're trying to stay on top of it.
Okay.
Anyone else who may have had a chance? Anyone else?
Okay. I noticed that we've got a new director of literacy, but we don't have a director of curriculum. Can I assume that we don't have an additional account administrator, so it's a wash? Now, last year I gave you lecture about the impending budget surplus, which I estimated to be $9 million for 2015. And you would have had the numbers on June 30th, because that's when the books closed. You know when you padded the budget, you know how much you really spent, and so forth. So what I want to know, Madam President, is how much was our cash budget surplus, and where'd it go?
We will be presenting.
I want to hear from the board, because it's your fiduciary duty. I'm sure he can give us an answer. I want to know that you've done your fiduciary duty, that you know how much the surplus was. You obsess over $35,000 contract. This is $9 million of a budget surplus. I want to know that the board members are paying attention, that they're doing their fiduciary duty, because we've gotten our clock cleaned by our administrators and our teachers. I want to see that you're doing your fiduciary duty. Do you know?
Mr. Kumas, I have not received the reports at this time.
I can't hear you.
I have not received the report at this time. The books were closed. We just finished the audit process, and I answered your question. You may not like the answer, but I answered your question.
Does anybody know? Because you would have known June 30th. We don't need an audit for this. We know how much cash was left over from our budget last year, how much you over budgeted. We know that June 30th because we know how much we paid in expenditures. We know how much we had coming in revenues, and we know how much additional revenue came in that you didn't put in the top. And I'm estimating it's $9 million. Does anybody know? And I ask you about this over and over again because what happens is, and I told you where to put the money, to forward it to the 2016 budget rather than stash it in some secret account for the administrators and the teachers, which is what you did with $5 million last year.
So I'm hearing a few things.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first thing that I'm hearing is that it was closed on June 30th, so you know June 30th, but that's not accurate because there are outstanding POs of things that are not yet paid for, and there are encumbrances. So that's not exactly an accurate statement. The second thing that I'm hearing is that, is almost like a conspiracy theory. And, I think that we're all at this point, at a loss for, how to convince you otherwise. And so I don't think, we can. There is a business official who is in charge of that. There are auditing companies, there's claims auditors, there's all those that are there for that reason. There is a philosophical difference of opinion that I think we're just going to have to accept as a philosophical difference of opinion, which is the way that the money is used, which is not necessarily used in the prior year. So it is my understanding, or based on the things that you've said, that your opinion of the way that it should be used is to take that money, take all of the money, and put it toward the next year's budget. I believe that last year when we presented the budget, we presented over $6 million of that going to this year's budget. And part of the reason why you don't take everything and put it is, as we explained last year, which is that whole notion of a rainy day. Should
Well, that's what I'm
lightning-
asking, how much did you appropriate to this year's budget? Every year before that, it's been $2.5 million. Are you saying you kicked it up to
Right,
$6 million?
so last year, and I'm not gonna remember the exact codes, but there were two $3.1 million appropriations from the previous year into this school year's budget, which would be $6.2 million.
Okay, so I'll wait for the budget on that one, the orders on that one. Now. I see that overhanging Mr. Press's term here was his transfer to California, but I see he got elected vice president. Does that mean, Madam President, that Mr. Press is going to serve out the full year? Okay. Last year, I was on the, I know you're encouraging people to, the BEA. Mr. Press described these great reports we got, and I was wondering if they were on the website.
I think they are, but I'd have to double check that.
They're not up there yet.
I'm
They're
sorry.
not up yet.
Okay.
That's your question, they're not up yet.
But they are.
Hold on. He asked if they're on the website, so I'm asking his question. They're
In the backup materials,
the reports. The reports? Oh, okay. I don't know exactly.
So what's the link?
Okay, so, but do you know what month it is? Okay, so this is the deal. Under the BEA link, they're not uploaded. However, if Mr. Press would be so kind to find out what month, it was in the backup material, one month that we got it, May or?
probably May, because
Yeah,
Because
so
that's when
that
they
would be
presented.
under the Board of Education,
It should be.
minutes.
But they should be under the
Could you have Mrs. Hobbs send me a link or something that would, so I can find it?
We'll just put it on. Just check the website tomorrow.
Now, last year I was on the budget advisory committee, and one of your charges was to help you with the budget. However, I couldn't get through the door in Mr. Cullen's office. He, with the budget advisory committee, he was missing in action, and I couldn't get any information from him. You recall at our budget meeting in this very room, I asked for an appointment. I was asking for appointments all year, could not get an appointment. All I want is to discuss the our financial statement. So because I can only learn so much on myself, I need some tutoring. And so I'm just wondering, I'm going to be on the budget advisory committee. I was a volunteer. I want to help you understand the budget. Are you going to support me in getting information from our administration? Or from Mr. Reno? I'll go to Port Jefferson, to get some tutoring. I don't care. I just want to be able to help you understand the financial statement.
Well, nonetheless, I think the question is, who would love to be a part of the council?
Because I can't make that promise.
Okay. Okay, well, just please consider that, that this should not be a charade. that, you know, you
I
ask
had the
people
same,
to
I
help
had the
you.
same problem when I was on the DA.
Yeah,
DEA
Of
before I
course,
was on,
nothing's changed, right?
which is
I
why, one of
recall
the reasons
you-
I ran for the board. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry to
recall
hear
you
that
saying
it's
that
still
on my doorstep.
continuing without getting the information you're requesting. That's all I can say.
No, well, yeah. Yeah, the information's there, I just need a little, you know, fine-tuned understanding of the financial statements, which is, you know, 102 pages long.
So, Mr. Kugelman, can I ask you to wrap it up a little?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Meet J. Day, 75 Bay Western Street. Just a couple of quick questions and points, really brief, because this is my working time. Impartial hearings officer, I think, was mentioned. What exactly is that? There was a word.
Yeah, a partial hearing officer, if there is sort of a disputed decision at a CSE, the parent can request an impartial hearing. So this was an appointment of the officer who will preside over that.
And we pay for that? Okay, is that like an hourly rate, or they're on contract, or? So like when we call them in, that's kind of when the clock starts?
Yeah.
Okay. And it usually, do they come in for like a group of hearings, or it's just one shot?
Just one.
And what's the hourly rate? I'm thinking I could be impartial. I need something to pay these taxes around here, just saying.
It might be a ring in the
Just like ballpark, in like a range?
I can look up the
Oh, okay,
material.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, a suggestion, because again, I have to, in essence, on some of the points, agree with Mr. Kugelmoff, because I too tried to set up an appointment with Mr. Cullen unsuccessfully to get some of my questions and concerns answered about the budget. So I'm just hoping, and I know our new person here, and I spoke to him, glad to see that you kind of survived the summer. That I'd like the opportunity to, you know, kind of sit down and meet with him and get an idea of, you know, where our money's going, because the majority of our taxes go to schools. I don't have any kids in the school district, you know, but I attend meetings. But I do interact with a lot of the parents, and on my block, we've got at least 4 households that have like special needs kids, so we have like the mini buses, so I'm really concerned with regard to this, you know, potential strike. As the superintendent mentioned, that a lot of the impact are like the mini buses, the smaller buses. So I'm just wondering if we have a number as to how many students potentially would have, you know, an issue. You know, because, you know, maybe I might have to take 1 or 2 of the kids that live on my street, you know, to school. I mean, I just want to know if there's like a plan B type of thing with regard to that. And
Of the total number, it's 266 kids.
so it's like 200.
166 or 200.
Right, so 200 are private and parochial students, and 166 are Baldwin students,
Baldwin
special
public.
education students.
Right,
Okay, and Ms. Meritage,
okay.
per our policy 9375, compensation for an impartial hearing officer is established at a current rate of $100 per hour.
Nice little bit of change. Okay, thank you. And again, a suggestion with regard to helping to get, I don't know, a handle or an idea in terms of the expenses as it pertains to the overall budget, so we know at the end of the year. I know coming from, aside from the media side, but from a construction management side, you have a monthly tracking, so you have an idea of what your expenditures are, what the income, what the revenue is, so you can go through those budget lines to kind of determine where your expenses lay, and if there are some cost savings. So at the end of that period, you can get a better idea in terms of planning that budget, so that possibly there's a cost savings that can then be turned over to the taxpayer. Because one of the other things that I find out when I go to the town of Hempstead or the county, particularly the town of Hempstead, when I see a listing in terms of their contractor that comes to do emergency boarding up because of the increase of zombie houses, last month there were 6 houses in Baldwin that we had to pay for to get boarded up because the residents gone. This month, just the beginning of this month, there were already 2. So that's, again, money that's additionally going to come out of our pocket. So I'm just saying, as a suggestion, and it might be something that, you know, our new person has already considered, or just a thought, that if we can look at ways that we can let the residents of Baldwin know that we're trying to, you know, like, give them back some money, or just say, guess what? We're not looking to pierce another tax cap or to increase something. We're going to cut some of those taxes, you know, or bring something down. So I'm just saying, in terms of a thought. Lastly, I appreciate the fact that you were, you know, used your connections to bring in $70,000 grant. Because I know that was one of the areas that was talked about when we had the budget discussion about looking at different sources of revenue versus just hitting the taxpayer. So I definitely want to commend you for that. And if anybody else can bring in some money, feel free to do so. Legally, of course. Legally, of course. And if one of those ideas in terms of the innovation and creativity, if we can do something about public speaking and writing, because I mentor, like I said, public relations students, and not for nothing, public relations, it requires a lot of consistent writing and quality writing. And as well as journalism in terms of pinpoint writing, but it also provides that public speaking opportunity, and our young people need that. They need to have those opportunities. So if that's something that can be done through the studio or whatever, you know, I think, because there's a whole market for like video resumes and things like that, you know, in terms of just mock interviews, but you can also kind of get them in the habit of doing the mock interview and the video resumes so that they can get opportunities. Because I know the president is looking at trying to rate apprenticeships and free college for community colleges. Again, I mean, Joe Biden's going to be in New York City tomorrow. You know, the president's flying to Michigan. And I'm still trying to get my little ticket to get on Air Force One because I'm tired of hearing what everybody else is on there. It's not me. But, you know, we need to be able to bring those elected officials here, you know, into our community to benefit our kids. You know, we got great colleges and junior colleges and community colleges here in Long Island. We're talking about the 95% of our students that are going to colleges and doing great. But, you know, we need to kind of broaden that, you know, to get more resources here. So again, so we can protect the interests of the core group, which are the taxpayers. So I'm done. I gotta go work. Thank you.
In the room here, the administration is mostly women. Our principals, except for one, no woman. If I'm lucky, in the next 2 years we have a woman president. I have 2 daughters, one in the 7th grade and one below that. I hope that they will become presidents too. In our high school, we have a mural that needs a little update. I think the copy is right here. It shows the girls doing cooking and the boys doing a bit more empowering things. And I'm wondering if before my daughters get to high school, we'll be able to update the mural.
This is something that I have been interested in, because I happen to agree with you. I also have 2 daughters, and I have seen this mural many times, and it is from another era. And I have heard the argument that it was painted as part of the work projects back in the Depression. However, this was not painted during that time. This was not commissioned under that act, and it has no historical significance to Baldwin. For example, if there have been historic events in Baldwin, and I'm sure there are, I just don't know what they are, they're not reflected in that mural. That mural could be from anywhere in the 1950s, pretty much in Middle America. And it's before Title IX, so you can see that the girls are not playing sports or cheering, which I understand cheer can be considered a sport, But under Title IX, girls have equal opportunity or should have equal opportunity in sports. And I agree with you that, and especially as Dr. Kelly has said recently in the Herald, we want to move forward as a 21st century school district. We want to be progressive. We're improving our technology, our image, and that in the high school, which is like this larger than life painting on the wall, is not 21st century. It's not progressive. It's not empowering to women or to men. And I fully agree with you that it needs updating or modification or something to bring it into the 21st century, to have it align with what Dr. Hammy's vision is for Baldwin, which is a school of the 21st century where all students have equal opportunity, girls and boys. And it's not reflected there. A girl cooking is great, boys should learn how to cook too, but then we see the boys, I can't really see that one from here, but I think looking at a microscope. And it's time. It's definitely time. So I agree, and I don't know how everybody else feels on board, Dr. County, but I think it's something that should definitely be explored. Anybody else?
When was this mural done, what year?
It was done when the school was built, and I think you should do some research first before you take it down, because there is some research about the person who painted it, and it is part of the history of the school. And I just, before you take yourself and decide to modernize something, also you should be researching.
So I
the history
actually
of what it
think
is.
you have done history, and I've read about the artist, and again, this was not a commissioned
It may not have been commissioned.
we're not, right, we're not going to go back and forth. It's not in any sort of historical registry. I'm not saying you have to tear it down, but it is not, and I understand people who've been in the community for a long time might feel attachment to it. Maybe you knew the family, the artist who painted it, because I believe he was a Baldwin resident. Maybe you knew his kids who went through the school, and I understand there's some emotional connections to it. And a great place for it would be the historical museum, which I know that you're a vice president or president there, and it may. But if you look at our student body, this is not reflective of our student body. If you look at girls anywhere in the United States, this is not reflective of girls. We don't want our girls to achieve, to cook and cheer. I'm still talking. We want them to excel. We want them to come into high school and feel empowered and challenged and know that they also can look through microscopes, that they can do great things. And you might say the kids don't notice, but one kid might notice. And if we really are trying to sell Baldwin through this PR campaign, through the website, when people come into our school to tour it and they see this big mural from another era, it's not really in line with where we're going. So I thank you, but I have done the research. I've been talking about this mural since well before I was on the board. So, and I agree with you. It is historical in some senses, and it should be in a historical museum.
And at this time, we're going to close the comment session.
Wait, I think Mr. Escobar had to say something.
I was just gonna say, I think that, it is important for there to be reflection on it. Thank you for letting me know when it was built, but I think, as you said, it's something that we should explore. At the same time, the school is for the students, it's for the community. There is a mixture there, and there's a way that we can unite as a community and be a part of keeping history, but as well as bringing evolution. I think there is a way that both can happen. I don't feel like we're saying, yeah, it has to be teared down and destroy the history that's there, but how can we come to a medium to bring the new era with the foundation that was already there? And I think there is a way for us to find a way to coexist and look at this further, because if we are talking about 21st century and moving into different places, it should be evaluated.
Lori Fitzpatrick, 2284 Rockwood Avenue, is a Baldwin lifelong resident. That mural has always been there, and it is representative of the time it was made. However, all throughout that high school are other murals that are painted every year by the AP art students. My own daughter did one this year, and it is hung up now in the school. And that is total representation of exactly what the high school is in that day. So there are a gazillion gazillion murals throughout that high school.
I understand.
They're in every, now I'm speaking.
I am gonna respond.
Now I'm speaking.
I am gonna respond. You can end the
But she,
meeting, but I'm gonna
let her
respond.
speak, she's
Yeah,
not
let her talk.
speaking.
Right, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So when you tour the high school, or even look around the commons, it's not just the one historical, beautiful mural that was represented at the time that the schools were built. Turn around. There are so many murals in that school, in every corridor, in the cafeterias. Just open your eyes and look. They are there. And they represent the current times of the school district.
Thank
The
you.
AP art, the AP art students have drawn them, have painted them, and spent a lot of time doing them, representative today.
Thank you. And I have toured the building and I have seen other murals that don't compare at all in size. And when you talk about a symbol of Baldwin and what it was, you're right, it's a symbol. And I think in our recent history as a country, we've seen what symbols can do. And we had a symbol of the Confederate flag. And people had very strong feelings, and people
You
do
can't
have that.
compare
I'm
it
still
to that,
talking.
to this.
And I'm not comparing it, I'm just talking about symbols.
Excuse me.
You are now talking about a symbol.
Excuse me.
You're,
Excuse me. As the chair of this meeting,
yeah.
I have the right to close the session.
Okay, but I'm gonna keep talking. If you
No.
don't wanna leave, that's fine.
No.
And when we talk about symbols, I'm not comparing it to the Confederate flag, but I'm talking about the importance and the attachment that people feel to different symbols in their life. And a lot of people in the South feel a strong attachment to the symbol of the Confederate flag. And people may feel attachments to symbols all over the world, different types of symbols. And I understand the attachment to this symbol. And what I'm saying is that it is not representative of our community now. I understand at one time that that's what our community was like, that girls did not have equal rights, that there was no Title IX. But that is not 2015. We're in the 21st century. Our new website shows girls and boys doing things equally, and I think it's time for modification of this mural.
At this time, I need a motion to go into exec to review the superintendent's evaluation.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Press. Second by Mrs. O'Neill. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. I'm Take it out.
Good, I was gonna say, you want to- Yes. No, take care, see you soon, right? Take care.